Hey everybody, welcome back to the Castos YouTube channel. Today we're talking about 7 ways new podcasters can promote their podcast, get more downloads, get more listens. If that's you, this video is for you. All right, let's dive right in. Number 1, define the why. This is your clarity. What are you trying to achieve? What's the purpose of this podcast? How will you measure success? At Castos, the number 1 question that I get is how can I promote my podcast and get more downloads? I have to stop people at thinking about the downloads and thinking about the why. If we don't know why, then we don't know how to achieve the goal. The great thing about a podcast is success isn't always about the download count. You can have an extremely successful podcast with just 200 listeners. I know it's cliche to say, but I refuse to lead any podcasting advice without defining the why. Number 2, build the hype with your audience by building a landing page and an email list. It doesn't matter if you haven't even named your show or you're on your way to 100 podcast episodes. Building hype or creating the connection to an audience is very important to growing your show. Investing in an email list provides you raw numbers of interested listeners, and it also ensures that you can build awareness for each episode that goes out by emailing them every episode. Build the hype, create the list, launch with an explosion, not a sound of crickets. And guess what? Tracking signups to an email list is another great measuring stick for success. It illustrates that you're on your way to building a list of superfans, which is important for our next step. Number 3, close the feedback loop by creating superfans. When you start to build hype around the show and you start to build an email list, the next thing podcasters should be thinking about is closing that feedback loop. What do I mean by this feedback loop? Your audience is your number 1 asset when creating this podcast. That's what you should be worried about most, not about the content that you want to create or how to become like your favorite podcaster. You want to talk to your audience about what they want as much as possible. Provide the content that they desire and will tune into. Building trust with your audience through providing content that they want, plus keeping them engaged, builds better loyalty and greater word-of-mouth referrals to your show in the long run. Start early and repeat often. It's arguably the hardest part of growing a show, but also the most effective. Number 4, engage and be helpful. Let them know that you're here. Now, let's put our marketing hats on for a moment. A critical component of your show's success is marketing. Just because it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify doesn't mean you'll be found amongst the 1.8 million other podcasts on the web. I run a group for Castos called Podcast Hackers. You can find it at podcasthackers.com. You should join it. There's over 2,200 podcast creators in this Facebook group, probably just like you. And that's it. That's the lesson. Engage with other podcasters, groups, or communities. Podcasters love talking to other podcasters. You want to be helpful and courteous. Don't simply throw your show in people's social feeds. Help them first, share their content, give them a reason to care about you before your show. Find other groups your podcast audience listeners hang out in and leave little hints that you produce a show or that you've created content close to their needs, just not in a forceful way. All of this builds up trust to lead into what should happen next. Number 5, guest appearances and interviews. Collaborate with other audience builders. Remember when I said podcasters love talking to other podcasters? Interviewing other people with a large following or being a guest on another podcast is hands down the most effective way to grow your audience. When a guest or podcast host is doing a great job at promoting their own podcast appearances, you're allowing yourself to grab their audience's attention and hopefully gaining some of that awareness to grow your own podcast. This is the most common way podcasters can quickly start to see their downloads increase. Number 5, creating supportive content. Sadly, it doesn't end at just creating your podcast. We need to create supportive content to help grow the show. Remember, we're wearing our marketing hats now, thinking about the bigger picture and promoting campaigns that will drive awareness that we're looking for. Let me hit you with 3 best pieces of supportive content, and then we can dive into each. Audiograms with an app like Headliner, blog posts for each episode, and a best of email newsletter summary for your subscribers. Audiograms are those neat little video clips that have your spoken audio transcribed into animated words. It's got like a logo or a waveform in the background. This allows you to punch into the hottest parts of an episode and share it on social. Creating show notes, providing helpful links, or a complete transcript of a show in a blog post hits 2 major wins for podcasters. First, it's a great supplemental content for anyone who might be skimming through your show before investing all that time to listen to a whole episode. And second, it's a great win for search terms in Google and SEO and general shareability on social media. I could spend a whole video on this, but we'll save that for later. Speaking of spending a whole video in one area, email marketing. Sending out emails is pointless if the subscriber doesn't value the content. Try to think of your email list as another opportunity for unique content so that you have a better chance of listeners clicking through to listen to those podcasts. You might provide something in the email that they can only get in their inbox, or you're saving them time by summarizing a show to pique their interest. Either way, it's a tool in your marketing tool belt. There's lots more that can be done here. Just know that there's a phenomenal opportunity in growing superfans through an email list. Number 6, create a press kit and have branding materials. Show up like a professional. This is an easy win and one that I think every podcaster can do fairly easily. I recently uploaded a video to using Canva design tool, using one of their resume templates to build out a one-page press kit for podcasts. It took me all of 15 minutes to create something I can have to share with other podcasters or guests that come on my show. You can write out the premise of your show, your bio as a podcaster, provide some stats around your audience, and even highlight some of your most popular episodes. A press kit also bleeds into overall branding. So if you have a great logo plus some great podcast cover art, you're making your way to creating a complete promo pack. This is something that quite literally illustrates that you're a cut above the rest of the 1.8 million podcasts that are out there. It shows you care and that you take this job seriously. Number 7, get your time right. As with most podcasters, success takes time. I always want to put this at the top of my advice videos, but it scares a lot of people away. Like a lot of the great comedians in the world, it took them years, if not decades, to become great. This is an art form that redefines itself over time. It's why I urge you as a new podcaster to think critically about setting your goals. Having said that, my advice is to structure your available time in a way that favors spending more time marketing than recording your show. Something like a 50-50 split. So if you told me you only had enough time to create 4 episodes a month and nothing else, I would tell you to cut that in half, creating only 2 episodes a month and spending the other 2 weeks promoting your podcast using some of the tips we talked about in this video. Don't be too busy for your podcast. Give it a chance to breathe, to be accepted by others and promoted thoroughly so your new audience can find it. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want more videos like this, stay connected to youtube.com/Castos. Subscribe to the Audience podcast that comes out every week at castos.com/subscribe. It's the best podcast for podcasters. We'll see you in the next video.